Transmission, October 30th, 2024. It is 1500 hours. Is anybody out there? This is the Blue Iron Lion broadcasting from somewhere. Now, what is it about this realm, this place that punishes the nice, the kind? So when I grew up and was watching Sesame Street, I could have sworn that the theme was always about being nice to others, being helpful to others, being friendly, being kind. Imagine my shock when I came upon the first group of kids that were not nice, not kind, not friendly to others. In fact, for many of us, that was our first introduction to the school bully. It's like part of our first initiation into society. And granted, at that age, we never knew what the other unkind children may have been going through at home. Perhaps they were just lashing out. Nonetheless, that didn't make those of us that started off more kinder-oriented feel any better. We, or at least I, just thought they were little jerks that would eventually grow up to be big jerks with personality disorders. Of course, we know now that's not always the case. People change growing up. As we continue growing up, we start hearing messages different from the indoctrination we heard from the kiddie shows. We start hearing the nice guy finishes last, or if you're too nice, you'll get taken advantage of, or flat out, nice equals weak. So, we grew up and was taught by society to be non-confrontational, be polite, follow directives, backed by a system built on barbarism, yet indoctrinates its children not to be barbarians. Why? Well, because then you're easier to control. That's why. The system cannot have a bunch of Conan the Barbarians running around, or it's a wrap. That must be kept to a minimum. And yet still, you'll always find that minimum. You'll always find a few people that doesn't seem to follow the rules too well, right? They're unruly, they don't listen, they're crass, they're getting into fights. Like, for example, when I was in school, I would see these kids, a few kids who seemed like they just couldn't behave themselves. And I would sit there and be like, geez, man, what's wrong with these guys? Mentally, something's got to be off. Meanwhile, these were typically not the guys that got bullied, at least not amongst their peers, and they were also the guys that the girls wanted to interact with. Even amongst your own circle, right? So you got your circle of friends, and this goes for guys and girls. You find that if you're too nice, then suddenly you become that person within the group to mess with. Now that I think about it, I wonder if being nice is a handicap. Currently, you've got a lot of hardcore guys out there, strong men and resilient women. And yet society is softer than ever. I notice. You got to go from Generation Xers and maybe the first level millennials from the early 80s to on back to find that type of raw toughness. The type of toughness that would get the average person fired today. So back then was even more unforgiving, more crude. Yet, post-Facebook era, the jerk factor is higher than ever. It's like what Mike Tyson said. Social media has made people way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. So we've got an even added air of the disrespect factor among society, like an evolved jerkism that is even ruder and more dismissive to the nice and pleasant folk out there. And so you might ask yourself, why? Why is that? Why can't a person just be nice? Well, being nice to many out there signals an ulterior motive, or they just don't respect it. And I can even understand in a harsh reality like this, where inflation is higher than ever, and a survival mentality is expanding, what the flip is out here for you to be nice about, or to smile about. Out here, nice is weak. So one might say, I don't believe in that. I will not let this place dim my light. A place like this needs kindness. And on an esoteric level, they would be right to keep their vibration high. However, this could be taxing on a soul that is not adept at this. You got all these different personalities. You don't know who is who. There are people out there that, believe it or not, that actually look for that, for a nice person, or what they perceive as weakness to intimidate or exploit. Now, as a normal guy, if I bump into someone else who has a quiet, pleasant, nice guy or nice girl demeanor. I'm not looking to see if I can take advantage of them, right? But you see, you got these social psychopaths out there that feed on that. Like, oh, this person right here is prime meat for me to take advantage of or mistreat. And they might not even be conscious of it. It could be subconscious for them, you know. It's just who they are. So to me, the solution for this is to be respectful. Respectful should be the default, but you want to do so with the mindset that you are not the one to be tampered with. My father tried to instill toughness in me early, but my young brain at the time interpreted it for me to be fearful of the seemingly tougher, unruly, loud kid. I got my kindness or niceness from my mother, but I did not know how to blend the two, so I class clowned in my elementary school years and sort of shrank from there into junior high school. It was only in my later years of high school that I just toughened up from where I was. Not a hard rock, still pleasant, but I wouldn't hesitate to fight anybody if I needed to. I wouldn't shrink. I think it was more of well, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I'm in a tough environment. Yeah, I just adapted. In fact, it got a little overboard because I was getting to the level, especially when I was around 17 years old, to where I had a nothing's going to happen to me attitude, you know, staring matches in Brooklyn in the 90s. Thinking back, I had zero idea of what type of other people were out there, their level of crazy, and what they'd have absolutely no problem doing to me. In fact, I remember I was walking to school near the train station, and a grown man was talking to himself angrily and glanced back at me a few times. I did not know or interacted with this guy ever before. I could say now perhaps he was going through a psychosis. So now we're on the opposite end of the train tracks now, and this guy's just staring at me. So I did a doughboy, for those that saw the movie Boys in the Hood, and extended my arms out like what? A few short words, and he invited me to come up the stairs and meet up. This is a grown man, mind you. I'm a 145-pound teenager, so he outweighed me. We meet up, and he gets in my face and tells me something along the lines of, I'm young and I'm lucky. A few cuss words, and he goes back down the stairs. I turned back around and didn't know there was a police officer in the background looking at us like, let me see what these two bozos are about to do. So apparently he saw the officer behind me. That saying, God looks out for children and fools, could not be more accurate. Well, I was technically a child, so. I mean, back then, if you got slumped, right, this was before the cell phone era. The only way your murder would be solved is if you had a witness or they matched the bullet inside of you with that of another victim. But getting back to my point, respect. Well, after that brief story, respect with discernment. This protects you. And the respect part also covers those that are just inherently kind. Some people are just inherently kind and give away kindness to all. But you can't give that away in a place like this, unfortunately. So a person that is kind ought to have their own boundaries with the respect. You know, respect others who respect them type thing. Niceness or kindness has to be earned. Respect is the default. Men, even your smile can be perceived as weakness. Ridiculous, but watch who you present that to. You got to walk with your chest out. I mean, not exaggerated. Well, actually, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But for the men, picture a man walking around slouched over, head down like he doesn't want any trouble. Now picture a man walking upright with his head up. Which one do you think a bad guy would attempt to rob first? Which one do you think the boss would send to go for coffee? And which one do you think the girl would have more confidence in? And then beyond all of that, on an esoteric level, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Walking around for your duration here with a better sense of confidence, I would think would make a man feel better. Women, you walk with your head held high also. Your confidence, sure-footedness, and discernment makes you less appealing to get white-vanned. There can be no signs of weakness here in the wild. Exercise. Strength helps. Yeah, there are no guarantees. Like in my previous video where I talked about the time where I was potentially robbed, I was a big dude, but in a bad setting. But then I was also armed, so I had the best of both worlds. Yeah, the meek has not inherited the earth yet. So in summary, Do not give your kindness, your niceness away. You can be courteous, be pleasant, okay? You don't have to walk around like the 1987 RoboCop, but control your energy in this place. That's the reality of this realm. For anyone out there that cares to listen. End transmission.